Morbid Facts, Part 413. In 1978, Hustler magazine owner Larry Flynt was shot in the spine by a white supremacist serial killer who was apparently outraged by an interracial photo shoot in one of the magazine editions. Flynt survived the murder attempt but was left permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Years later, Flynt pleaded for his attacker to be spared from execution, saying, "A government that forbids killing among its citizens should not be in the business of killing people itself." But with up to 22 total victims and the desire to start a race war, the serial killer was eventually put to death by lethal injection. Around 1:30 a.m. in August of 2021, a woman wearing only a bra and leggings was captured on a trail cam in a remote North Carolina forest. 3 hours later, she was captured again, this time walking much slower with a noticeable limp. 6 months later, the woman's remains were found in the same area, still wearing the same clothing. Despite all efforts to identify her, the woman remains a complete mystery to this day. Morbid Facts, Part 358. This was one of the last photos captured of Steve Jobs, the genius behind Apple. It was taken just a few days before he passed away from pancreatic cancer on October 5, 2011. During World War I, 20-year-old French soldier Albert Roche was found sleeping on duty and was sentenced to death for abandoning his post. But thankfully, a messenger arrived just moments before his execution to tell the full story. Albert had crawled for nearly 10 hours under enemy fire to rescue his wounded captain before passing out from exhaustion. In 2013, a Chinese businessman hired a hitman to take out his competitor for $282,000. But the hitman hired another hitman to do the job, offering $141,000. That man then hired another hitman, who hired another hitman, who hired another hitman. The fifth hitman, who was offered $14,000 for the job, tried convincing the target to fake his own death. But instead, he reported the threat to authorities, and all 6 men, including the original businessman, were sent to prison. Morbid Facts, Part 359. In 1955, 24-year-old actor James Dean died in a car crash while driving his Porsche 550 Spider, which he nicknamed Little Bastard. After the accident, the car was towed to a garage in Los Angeles, and while it was being repaired, it fell off its jack and crushed a mechanic's legs. The engine and transmission were later sold to 2 professional racers, both of whom later crashed their vehicles during the same race and were seriously injured. The car's tires were also sold, and the new owner was eventually killed in yet another car crash. Over time, the stories of deaths and injuries associated with the car led to rumors of a curse. Some believed that the car was haunted and that anyone who came into contact with it would suffer misfortune. But in 1960, the car disappeared while being transported from Miami to Los Angeles. The car has never been found, and its whereabouts remain a mystery to this day. Morbid Facts, Part 23. Actor and comedian Chris Farley was originally casted to be the voice of Shrek, but he died of a drug overdose in 1997 when 90% of his lines were recorded for the movie. Rabies is such a deadly disease that you're more likely to survive being shot in the head. Only 14 people in recorded medical history have ever survived rabies, and all of them suffered permanent brain damage. In 2006, a team of scientists in Iceland were freezing clams in order to study the effects of climate change. But they ended up accidentally killing the oldest known animal in the world, a 507-year-old ocean quahog clam named Meng. Morbid Facts, Part 24. When 13-year-old Ryan White got AIDS from a blood donor in 1984, he was only given 6 months to live. Even though doctors said he posed absolutely zero risk to students, he was banned from returning to school by a petition signed by 117 parents. An auction was even held to raise funds to keep him out, and a local newspaper that supported him received death threats. The family was forced to leave town when a bullet was shot through the window of their home. Ryan outlived the doctor's diagnosis by 5 years, dying at the age of 19. Morbid Facts, Part 22. Through her grandmother Mary, Queen Elizabeth was a direct descendant of Vlad the Impaler. This technically makes King Charles the heir to Dracula's bloodline. If you hit someone with your car in China, you have to pay for their medical care. But if you kill someone with your car in China, you only have to pay a one-time fine. For this reason, many Chinese drivers have gone back to kill the person they hit. In 2013, a Nigerian chef survived in a sunken ship for nearly 3 days. It was 270 feet deep in pitch black water, and he said the only thing he could hear was the sound of fish eating the corpses of his shipmates. Morbid Facts, Part 40. In 1984, magician and comedian Tommy Cooper died of a heart attack while performing live on stage. Thinking it was all part of the show, the audience continued to laugh and clap as the man was gasping for air. Pool drains are literally powerful enough to suck your organs right out of your body, and it's one of the grisliest ways in which people have died. In 1962, a Cuban boxer named Benny Paret made fun of his opponent Emil Griffith for being a homosexual. Griffith ended up beating Paret so badly that he fell into a coma and died 10 days after the fight. In the 1920s, not much was known about the effects of radium. So when a group of women were paid to use glow-in-the-dark radioactive paint, they were told that it was completely harmless. But after years of licking the tips of their paintbrushes while using this radium-based paint, the devastating effects eventually became obvious. Many of these women developed a condition known as radium jaw, which would cause horrible tumors around the mouth, and some of their jaws would literally fall off. Morbid Facts, Part 41. The suit worn by the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz was made out of real lion skin and fur. Several lions were killed in order to make the costume as realistic as possible. During a 1998 soccer match in the Republic of Congo, a lightning bolt struck one of the goal pitches. It killed all 11 members of the home team, who were all wearing metal spikes. The other team was left completely unscathed since they'd all been wearing rubber cleats. In 2007, a woman woke up in the middle of a surgery where doctors were removing one of her eyes. She had suffered from a rare complication known as anesthesia awareness. She was aware of everything going on for hours, but was completely paralyzed and couldn't tell the doctors to stop. She says the experience was so horrific that she thought she had died and gone to hell. Charlie No Face was an urban legend in Pennsylvania who used to walk along the sides of highways at night. In reality, he was a man named Raymond Robinson who was left badly disfigured after a childhood electrocution accident. He only went out at night so his face wouldn't scare people, and he was said to be a very friendly and well-liked man. Morbid Facts, Part 42. In 1974, Hall of Fame basketball player Pistol Pete Maravich told a reporter, "I don't want to play 10 years in the NBA and then die of a heart attack at 40. He ended up playing 10 seasons before dying of a heart attack in 1988 at age 40. The ancient Romans would often substitute criminals into plays for punishment. So if a character was killed in the story, a real criminal would be killed on stage. A man was looking for his childhood home on Google Maps when he found both of his dead parents still sitting outside. The urine of a diabetic contains so much sugar that it can be purified and made into a high-end single malt whiskey. Stanley Meyer was one of the first to invent a car that was completely powered by water. He claimed that it was capable of traveling across the country on just 72 liters of tap water, which would have revolutionized the auto industry and made gasoline obsolete. But shortly after building the car, Stanley died while meeting with investors. His brother said he ran out of the restaurant choking, looked at him and said, "They've poisoned me."